ChessDiagnostic.
Hello everybody and welcome back for another video. I was working on another video for my endgame course, but actually I decided to show a game that I recently played as white here, and I thought it was quite interesting how I was able to break through, and I really wanted to make an educational moment in the endgame for strategy. So when you're playing in the middle game, you're looking to attack and play as quickly as possible. But once you get to the end game, you can switch strategies and you can take your time. The reason for that is because once the pieces are traded off, or the queens specifically, and you do reach an end game, then everything is a lot more stable in terms of piece trades and pawns, and they don't really change very quickly, so you can actually come up with a solid strategy. So let's see how that applies in this game. Now, this is a very important thing to know to beat players from a late middle game going into the end game. Now, this is a problem that I've had in terms of my own games, the mid to end game transition, and I've been working on it, just trying to find moments like this. So what do you think the correct move is? I would suggest you pause the video and try to solve it yourself. So maybe it's rather obvious to you or not, but the correct move here is to simply take the bishop. So you sack the exchange. Exchange sacks are very used in mid to end game transitions from games that I've looked at, that grandmasters use them a lot to kind of trick the opponent, and the material advantage that your opponent gets is nothing compared to the positional advantage. So let's see how this benefits me. So I took, and then I just start pushing all these pawns. Now if we go back, if I don't make the correct move, black is obviously planning to play e4, and there's really no way for white to break through at this point, except sacking the exchange. And now I get these pawns rolling. Now black really should hang on to his queen, but these pawns are going to be overrunning, at least winning a rook in the future. He trades, and now we see black is desperate to try to prevent the rolling of these pawns. So the e4 pawn is going to drop anyway. I don't think this is the best move. Probably something like f5 would have been good, because then at least he can get his king over to the queen side. But after the blunder, rook to c8, I just take the pawn, and now we see the position I'm talking about. Everything's very stable, and black is in a huge bind. There's really nothing that he can do, and now I control completely the e-file. So after I push and he plays rook to c7, trying to blockade the pawn, I decide to just get my king in. Alright, so another educational moment in this endgame. Having a material advantage in an endgame, you really don't want to trade pawns, because every pawn you trade in an endgame gives your opponent one more chance to try to get a draw. So you want to just maintain as much tension as you can, and let's see what happens here. So I just play f5, and then I can really take my time and just get my king over. Now, here's a tactical error that I could have made in the endgame. If I took this pawn, then he could have got rid of that problem pawn in the 7th rank, because it would have been pinned like this. Alright, so I'll just go through these moves very quickly. At this point, it's all over, and the pawns are in. Check, and the opponent resigned at this point. So I thought this was a quite interesting example of multiple things in an endgame, namely following the correct strategy of taking your time when the factors are all very concrete and stable, namely pawns and pieces, and also when you have your opponent in a bind, you can really just use your king to run havoc all over the opponent's position. Alright, so I'm going to be getting back to my endgame course going into this next week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the future. Bye.